Good evening, all. It's Tuesday, January 16th, 2024, at 7 p.m. And I call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Councilman Becker,
Here.
Councilman Jekyll,
Here.
Councilman Lesko here,
Here.
Councilman Schultz.
Here.
President Johnson.
Here. Item 3, public hearings. Tonight we have none. Item 4, public comment. The city council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon: name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless the item is also elsewhere on the agenda. A note for the hybrid on Zoom: if anyone on Zoom wishes to speak during the public comment period, please raise your virtual hand through Zoom, as the chat box is not monitored during the meeting, and those on the call must remain muted and if not recognized to speak. Tonight we have no one signed up to speak. Does anyone in our audience wish to speak?
Is there like a particular topic or like something that we want to speak about?
No, sir. You can speak about anything you wish.
Yeah. You have to like put my name down.
You need to come up to the podium, state your name and your address.
Nicholas Kohlmeyer, N1559, County Road on Hackbarth.
You're not a resident inside city limits?
If that doesn't count. On Google Maps, it says it's Fort Atkinson, but
Correct. So you have a Fort Atkinson zip code, but you're not a city resident that has taxes associated to the city of Fort Atkinson.
I
So,
cannot confirm or deny that. I don't know.
okay, well, I can tell you your address is located within the
Okay.
township. So unfortunately, we have city ordinance that only allows property owners or residents of the city. Do you own property within the city limits?
No, I attend school here though, and the subject matter that I would have been speaking on was something related to the educational system.
I'm sorry that the rules doesn't allow me to allow you to speak.
That's honorable. Thank you.
Does anyone on Zoom wish to speak? First call for anyone who wishes to speak. Second call for anyone who wishes to speak for public comment. Third and final call for anyone who wishes to have public comment. Public comment is closed. The consent agenda is outlined below, is hereby presented for action by the city council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, petitions, requests, and communications. A library 2023 year-end report, Mr. Robertson.
Good evening, all. Before you got here, I dropped off a small packet for you to take a peek of. I know that the infographic that's in the front was provided in your packet, but I thought I would add just a few more details for you just as we're talking. I just wanted to take a few moments to say thanks, especially for all the support throughout the year. A lot of what we're able to do is through the support of the council and the community. So just a couple quick things of note here. Last year, we checked out over 206,000 items, equating to $3.4 million in savings. So if you ever check out stuff, Bruce, when you come to the library, at the bottom of your receipt, it'll tell you how much you saved in a day. So this is just the physical, the value of the money from physical checkouts. So about a quarter of our circulation is electronic stuff on two things called Libby, which is a statewide collection of audiobooks and ebooks, and then Hoopla, which is a streaming service for audiobooks, ebooks, graphic novels, music, and movies. So both of those have grown pretty substantially, understandably, in the last 10 years. But at this point, Libby, as an example, our system is the second largest user in the world. The Toronto Public Library is the only one that exceeds our usage. So it's something that we as a community check out nearly 3,000 electronic materials in a month, just to give you a sense of that. So that's just a portion of what value of money that we're saving by taxpayer dollars that are going to the library and just the usage of the building and the materials within it. Again, we had a lot of increased usage of the building, a 10% increase actually in users that are coming into the building. And as part of that sort of attributes that you can see the Wi-Fi usage that's on there. It's terabytes of data that are going out all the time because more folks in the community either working remotely or for themselves or at home or homeschool or just generally speaking want to get out and do work on their own or just enjoy the space. And so the meeting rooms particularly are filled most times of the day outside of Fridays, which are a little slower. So the Wi-Fi usage is just going through the roof. So as a good thing in the packet I provided is the 1-page strategic plan that myself and the library board drafted for the next 3 years. And you'll kind of see on there, some of the emphasis is really not only on the staff, which are incredible, but the library space itself and how we're hoping to evolve it to accommodate more meeting room spaces and develop more infrastructures for organizations who are using us to come in and do their meetings, do their board presentations, have the technology that I know you've seen and others have seen in the space. So it's just evolving. It's not, I think none of you in the room I would argue would ever say this, but definitely it's not a book warehouse. It's never been, and it's a community space, and that's how it's being used. The number of folks who are attending programs is over 10,000 now, which is a great mark for us. It goes between 10 to 11,000, and that's events that we do in-house or things that we do outside of the building. So routinely we do home delivery for folks that are homebound. We go to RENA and take materials to those individuals that are there and their families. Fun things that we do. We did a board game night at Mr. Brew's about a week ago and had about 30 people come to that. And part of that was just to get out to folks who wouldn't necessarily see us and then realize, oh, we had no idea that you guys check out things like board games and explore passes and other stuff that's around us. So, and then some of the traditional stuff that we do, we still answer a very large amount of questions. So it's just over 9,000 questions in a year that we answer. And a lot of it's related to technology or still continuing to fax and scan documents. We routinely have a Tech Tuesday where anybody can walk in with phone, laptop, anything, and they could know nothing about it. So we have usually older individuals who, their kids are nice enough to buy them an iPhone and they're like, great, I have no concept of how to use this thing. Or what is a QR code? And when I go to Door County, only the menus are on this crazy code. What is this? So a lot more of that's happening, which is really nice. And then just the continued efforts that we're starting to make with folks related to memory care. So we have a support group that routinely meets now with 20 to 30 families that they're suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. And so their caregivers are coming in. And then Amy Christian, as an example, one of the librarians, she's been working closely with the Jefferson County to work on projects like the Purple Tube Project, which is something we're hoping to launch soon, which is, say, great guys who have astronomically high counts of work that they're doing right now for fire and EMS. If they were going to an individual's home and that person, somebody inside the house has dementia and they don't know, there's a purple tube that's stuck in their mailbox with medical information that they would know before they go in to assist somebody. This is the kind of care that this person would need that would be outside the bounds of normal stuff. So it's put into their mailbox and then also the refrigerator. So if they show up on site, they have some clue about how to better help that person. So we're really not the ivory tower of books. We haven't been that way for a long time, and our stretch is starting to get into a lot more social services, which we feel are really important, and a lot more partnerships with the county and other associations in the community. So, but big flashy numbers. And yes, we still do books. So I had to share some of the stuff that's super popular still. Any questions? I know the second document in there, if you've had a peek at it, it's a quarterly document. On one page is for children's and teens and the other side's for adults. That just gives you a sense of the type of events and programs that we put on, and then the strategic plan that's in there.
I know a few years ago when I served on library committee, we moved forward on the LED lighting.
Yeah.
And the savings, I would assume by now has nearly or has covered the expense of lighting.
Yeah.
relighting the
Yeah.
library.
The brief story behind that, if you're not aware, I became the director here a little over 6 years ago. And Jeff Armstrong, the now water department head, was the city electrician. And I went to Jeff with the electrical bill, as I had never seen. It's sort of like running a house, but everything has extra zeros. And I was like, Jeff, is this reasonable at $4,000 a month for electricity? He's like, I have no idea, but you have a lot of lights. So we did a program through We Energy, the Community Foundation, and the Libraries Trust, and split the cost of over, I think it was a $63,000 project to retrofit the whole building with LEDs. And so the prediction, which has held true to answer your question, is that we would save $750 to $1,000 a month, and that we would pay it back in 2.5 years, which has held true. So math is easy if you know wattage, and I'm not an electrical engineer, though Andy believes somehow that I am. So I was able to kind of do the math backwards, and that's held true. And the investment, the change in the trust is an example that's been a beneficial thing too. We moved our trust investment from a local bank, and we were only earning about 4% to Edward Jones and a firm here locally, and we own like 8 to 12% is typically the value that we've gotten back on that investment. So been a good move.
Well done.
Thank you.
With the demand for meeting space in the library, I forget, is there a policy on how long what chunk of time someone can book a room for?
We don't currently. That has been a brief conversation we've had internally. It's just to sort of, if we can do stuff like that, we would prefer not to. A few of us on staff have worked in other places that have had to do management of stuff like that. And it's not very fun. It's not great for folks that are coming in. Mason could come in and want to do work. He's on a Zoom meeting. We have people literally doing interviews, and they're over like 5 minutes. I'm not going to go kick them out. So that type of stuff happens. And so it helps us to avoid that. We haven't gotten to that point where we needed to do that. So my hope is that the computer lab that's upstairs. So if you have a chance, as you go upstairs, it's sort of on the east side of the building. It has 17 stations in it. We don't need that much anymore. So we're looking at more doing laptop checkout, which I've done in a university environment where you could check it out, connect to the Wi-Fi. We already have wireless printing, and you would be good to go. And then you could be anywhere in the building versus relegated to this space that we could then design to be more rooms in that space there, possibly 2 or 3 more rooms.
I, as you know, Eric, and you mentioned, I used the library a lot for many different things, everything from homework to Lions Club meetings to my kids are in 4-H and use those facilities a lot. I really appreciate that. Just curious, I know one thing that you've really focused on in your time is kind of the management of the facility, and making sure everything's kind of on a replacement cycle, and and just making sure everything stays updated. And any kind of hint you can give long term on where the facility needs might kind of go in the future?
Yeah, the biggest things that we'll need in the near future, if you're not aware, I was privy to a really good former library director who basically told me you need to come up with an understanding everything from the roof to the carpet and all the mechanics. So that was something I worked with Andy, the city engineer, on at some point to come up with a strategy for when this potentially mechanically could break, or aesthetically, like how long can carpets last in a building that's open 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. especially with salt on them and things like that.
Yeah.
So the big things, honestly, it's going to be aesthetic things like the carpet. So unfortunately, the company who did during the renovation 14 years ago now, they confirmed that none of the carpeting in the building is in production anymore. So they were kind enough to design something for the Fort Atkinson Heights School, which I reminded them we were not. And that I do love black and red, but I don't think it'd go really well with the warm autumnal colors in the building. And so we're at a point where like there's nothing immediate like that that we have to address ASAP. The mechanics have been kept up well and things like that. There is a sorting machine I know that's been in the CIP,
Yeah.
but I have pretty strong opinions about other very kind folks in the community that I think would be able to help us. We have money within our trust. We have money within the community foundation. I think other, individuals like Ed Carroll and others like that would be very supportive to basically slice up the cost of something like that can be very expensive, but not something that would be such a burden on tax levy and things like that. So I don't foresee us needing to build an addition anytime soon.
Okay. We appreciate, I mean, not that we wouldn't love to see that someday, but
No, it's
I think in the
understandable.
immediate future, we
Yeah.
appreciate that. So,
We will never win out to a fire truck. We don't need to do that. All right. Nothing else? All right. Thank you for your time. Thanks a lot.
thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Item number 8, reports of officers, boards and nope, I'm sorry. Item number 7, resolutions and ordinances. Review and possible action on a resolution opposing Wisconsin 2023 Senate Bill 691 and 2023 Assembly Bill 768. Ms. Hausman.
Thank you. In September, members of the Wisconsin legislature introduced a bill allowing certain towns to designate themselves as urban towns, a designation that would limit the effect of extraterritorial zoning and plat review, as well as annexation by other municipalities. In late December, the bill had been named SB 691 AB 780 or 768. That bill is in your packet, on the website for review. That bill did move forward with a public hearing in front of the Senate Transportation and Local Government Committee last week on January 10th. I did go to Madison and testify in opposition to this bill. It allows towns with a population of over 5,000 the ability to self-designate as an urban town without any sort of review or approval by the Department of Administration, any review board, a regional planning commission, or other board or agency. There's no public hearing, referendum, or any other way for local representatives from neighboring communities to raise concerns or objections. The bill removes city or village review of growth near borders and forces cities or villages with capacity to extend water and sewer services outside of their boundaries to serve properties within the town. It also exempts urban towns from extraterritorial plat review and zoning, as well as requires future city or village annexations to be only unanimous consent. So every property owner would have to agree and petition the city or village for annexation. So there are 1,253 towns in the state of Wisconsin. Of that, 32 towns could currently qualify for an urban town designation. There are not any around us. The closest potential urban town would be Ixonia. They have just over 5,000 people. Ixonia actually has their own sewer service area already. So there are other, Wisconsin law provides many options for towns that wish to provide additional services for their residents and control their land use decisions. Towns can adopt their own zoning ordinances. They can include planned growth areas in their comprehensive plans. They can enter into cooperative boundary agreements with neighboring cities and villages, and they can adopt village powers, and they can incorporate into actual cities and villages. So this bill does provide an additional method, create a designation as an urban town. However, it would stifle the city's growth. So if there was a case, there, as I mentioned in the memo, there's not immediate financial impact on the city, but there would very likely be increased costs to current water and sewer payers due to the increase in infrastructure necessary to serve town residents with city water and sewer. The bill does require that town residents pay the initial cost of the infrastructure, but then there are opportunity costs associated with using capacity for less dense single-family development, for example, instead of that capacity that we've paid for and planned for to use for commercial, industrial, multifamily development within the city, as well as repair, maintenance, and replacement costs associated with all of that infrastructure. If the city does not grow, the tax base cannot grow. So without a growing tax base, the city will not be able to pay for existing critical infrastructure or critical services provided to residents, including fire, EMS, police, and public works. That problem would be exacerbated by the additional residents of a town who would use the city's roads, parks, and other infrastructure without paying their fair share of the costs. So for these reasons, and because the city has invested substantially in our planning documents and our comprehensive plan and our official map and all of our other documents that plan the areas of growth around our borders, we have invested a lot of money into those things, as well as just trying to reduce urban sprawl or suburban sprawl of towns. So for those reasons, staff does recommend that the city council adopt this resolution opposing Wisconsin 2023 Senate Bill 691 and 2023 Assembly Bill 768. I would be happy to answer any questions from the city council.
Can you explain to me how it is determined if a city has capacity to extend some of the service? Like, what is,
Sure.
what determines capacity?
Sure. So for example, in our wastewater, and I'm not going to get these numbers exactly right, and Andy and Paul aren't here tonight, but I'll just give you some round numbers so you can kind of understand. So if we can treat 5 million gallons of wastewater per day. Right now, we are treating about 2.6 million gallons of wastewater a day. So we have extra capacity to treat additional wastewater. That and the size of the pipes, right? So if we would put infrastructure in the ground in areas where we plan growth. So we would put larger sewer pipes, larger water pipes in the ground in order to plan ahead for that growth in areas where the city is planning to expand. So that would be capacity in our current infrastructure, the pipes in the ground, as well as in our treatment facilities and for the water in pumping. So how many gallons do we have? Are we capable of pumping per day? And our storage capacity, above ground storage capacity, underground storage capacity, et cetera. So we have planned ahead for that, right? We have planned to provide city residents and business owners, property owners, planned to provide that service to them and plan to grow in areas designated in our comprehensive plan. And we would be able to accommodate that growth with our capacity in our water and sewer systems. So it would not be beneficial for the city to have to use that capacity to serve less dense single-family homes, for example, instead of a multifamily residential apartment building in the city, or for economic development. One of the questions we get asked when we get requests for information from site selectors and from developers about our business park, among other places, is what's your water and sewer capacity? So having that capacity, helps us get in the door with some of those, for some of those site selectors.
I fully agree with this resolution, and I think that the authors of the bill at the state level, I know that they're trying to address some concerns that have been brought up by their constituents. I'm sure some of this is being driven by trying to address contaminated wells and PFAS and other issues like that. But as somebody who's in favor of local control, I see this proposed bill as a huge overreach and an attack on local control and long-term planning that is so critical and important to our cities and villages. And I think you might have mentioned, but 70% of state residents live in either a city or a village. So this really is where most of the state population is based and where economic development largely happens. And I'm glad I did get to see some of the testimony that our city manager engaged in last week. And I appreciate that you brought up the recently passed innovation fund, because that's an attempt that the state has passed to try to encourage collaboration between cities like Fort Atkinson and our township neighbors. And I think largely, while it hasn't always been perfect, we have really tried to have a good relationship with our surrounding townships, and we've tried to work with them on so many things, whether it's emergency services or infrastructure or otherwise. So I think if they pass this bill, that would kind of stifle that innovation fund and any other attempts at collaboration with our neighbors. So I fully support this resolution.
And I will just note that the city does have a history, at least in the short-term history of working very well with the town of Koshkonong, as well as Hebron, Oakland, Sumner, and Jefferson relating to our fire and EMS services. So we do work with our towns, our area towns. We have entered into intergovernmental agreements and memorandums of understanding with the town of Koshkonong relating to roads, plowing roads, tree trimming, assessing road conditions. And we want to work with our neighbors to provide efficient, effective services for residents. But allowing towns to take that home rule authority through a self-designation negates these efforts and really does discourage future collaboration.
I believe our relationships with our local townships have greatly improved due to the efforts of our city manager, and I commend her for that.
Thank you.
I move to adopt the resolution opposing Wisconsin Senate Bill 691 and 2023 Assembly Bill 768 relating to urban towns.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, reports, officers, boards, and committees. City managers report. Ms. Hausman.
Thank you. On January 5th, the city swore in Noah Schneider as the city's newest police officer. The department is currently fully staffed, although there are 2 officers headed to the police academy in Madison this month. The meeting of the Police and Fire Commission scheduled for January 12th was canceled due to the snow and has been rescheduled for January 30th. An agenda will be published prior to that meeting. Speaking of the snow, I would like to recognize our Public Works crew for their efforts over the past week in dealing with snow and ice and frigid temperatures. Our park staff also assisted in snow removal and cleanup, and they all really did an excellent job. I'm very proud to have them on our team. I also want to thank our police department and our fire and EMS department for continuing to maintain our high level of service despite the difficult weather conditions. I also just want to say it's important to remember that snow, ice, wind, and rain never actually do what we want them to do, right? Nor what is forecasted for them to do. So I encourage everyone to have patience, drive slowly, and resist the urge to criticize. Clerk Treasurer Finance Director Ebert and I will represent the city at the Chamber of Commerce annual dinner tomorrow evening. And Michelle also will be presenting to the League of Women Voters at a speaking engagement this week at the Irvin Young Auditorium. So congratulations, Michelle, on that. Actually, she's also been accepted into the Wisconsin Women in Government Leadership Seminar. That is something that I was just made aware of today. So congratulations, Michelle, on acceptance into that program. I have been asked to complete a vacated term on the Board of Directors for the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and I have accepted that. I believe this will serve as an opportunity for me to represent the interests of Fort Atkinson on the state level, as well as learn from colleagues in other communities. The Parks and Recreation Director position has been posted. The city will be accepting applications, cover letters, and resumes through February 5th at noon. And also, after more than 45 years with the city, Municipal Court Clerk Debbie Hayes is retiring in March. As one can imagine, these are some big shoes to fill, and we hope to have the position posted this week to allow time for training prior to Debbie's retirement. And I want to congratulate her on an incredible career with the city. The Fort Atkinson Senior Center is holding a blood drive on Thursday, January 25th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then finally, there's no need for a spring primary on Tuesday, February 20th. Because there won't be an election, the city council meeting does not need to be moved. So in February, the city council will meet on Tuesday, February 6th and Tuesday, February 20th. We will continue to provide that information through our website and social media, so no one is confused about that. And also note that there is a fifth Monday in January here. So the next meeting of the city council will be on Tuesday, February 6th. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Item number 9, unfinished business. Tonight we have none. Item 10, new business. Review and possible action relating to hose purchase from McQueen Emergency for Fire Department at a cost not to exceed $25,000. Chief Lawrence.
Good evening, all. I think it was included in your packets, the proposal to purchase replacement fire hose from the 2023 CIP approved budget. The hose we're looking to replace is some 5-inch large diameter hose, 2.5-inch hose, 1 3/4 inch hose. Hose typically has a life expectancy of about 15 years. We're pushing 20 years on some of this hose. Some has been damaged on calls. The hose, so each truck carries about 5,000 feet of hose, so this isn't gonna outfit an entire truck. The CIP that was approved in 23 allowed 17,000 for fire equipment, 8,000 for a gear dryer. We have determined that gear dryer really is not necessary. We have a hose and gear dryer currently. With the remodel of the station, there's a hose tower there, so we don't use that dryer for hose any longer. So it's just a gear dryer that works perfectly fine. So we push that purchase off until who knows when in the future, if it breaks 10 years down the road, whatever it may be. So we're proposing, we had gone out, requested 3 proposals for the pricing of the replacement hose. McQueen Equipment, Firehouse or Conley Services, and then third was the
Fire Service Inc.
Fire Service Inc., I'm sorry. Received 2 bids back. Queen came in at the lowest cost for the material, the hose itself, $24,310.60, and Fire Service Inc. came in at $24,322. Shipping costs, McQueen included of a $600, $89.40 for the shipping. The other did not include a shipping cost. So we are proposing to purchase the hose from McQueen. That would be our recommendation. They're a local vendor somewhat. They're in Delafield. We've worked with them on several other projects, major projects within the department. They're really a preferred vendor for us. Questions?
Mike, I looked at both quotes. You mentioned that the second one did not include shipping, and it doesn't look like that quote included shipping in the cost. I'm assuming since they're in Indiana, there would have been a shipping cost on top of that. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay, so essentially the 2 quotes were very, very close.
Yeah, the hose comes from the same vendor.
Sure.
So their purchase price, I'm sure, is very similar for whatever dealer you go through.
Yeah, so makes sense to work with who we've already been dealing with.
Correct.
I move to approve the purchase of firefighting equipment from McQueen Emergency for the fire department at a cost not to exceed $25,000 using borrowed funds as outlined in the 2023 CIP budget.
Second.
Any further debate? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11, miscellaneous. Tonight we have none. Item 12, claims, appropriations, and contract payments. A review of possible action relating to verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
I move to approve the verified claims as presented.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Jekyll,
Aye.
Councilman Lesko Hair,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 13, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.